Hello and welcome to Todd Talk, where insight meets inspiration. I'm your host, Todd Hiller, and I'm an author, speaker, and longtime community leader, here to guide you on a journey towards fulfillment and balance. In every episode, we'll explore ways to fill life's emptiness, helping you uncover practical tools to create harmony, purpose, and happiness. Whether it's thriving in your career, nurturing personal growth, or simply finding joy in the everyday, Todd Talk is your space for real conversations and actionable advice. So let's thrive together, personally, professionally, and beyond. This is Todd Talk, and I'm thrilled to have you here.
It's funny the things we notice sometimes. It's funny the way we have driven past certain things thousands of times before, and we don't actually notice them. And all of a sudden, one day, we're sitting somewhere, and we pass something, and something strikes us and stands out to us, and it doesn't look different, but it brings about different thoughts. This happened to me recently. I was at a stoplight and looking at a brick building that I have driven past Lord knows how many times, because it's very close to where I grew up. It's very close to where I currently live now, and it's a building that I see all the time. However, the other day, while sitting at a stoplight, I looked over and I saw this brick building, and I noticed the number of different ways or number of different shapes and things there were about the building. It's a big, tall brick building, but there are window sills and window ledges, and there are archways and arches over the doors, and there's big, ornate top columns, and there's really decorative, they call it dental work, all that nice stuff, and it's all done with brick. And I looked at it, and since I've started this podcast, which I can't believe it's almost a year that I've been doing this, since I've started this, things have struck me and have come to me, and I've thought about things really differently, because I'm always like, oh, wow, that's, maybe my brain's become a little more analytical, or maybe I've always just been this way, but now I kind of relate it to a different topic for my podcast so I can share it with all of you. Whatever the case, I looked at this building and I said, it's made of brick. However, there are so many different shapes and so many different heights and things in it that it really got me thinking about how versatile a brick is in general. So when you lay a brick flat, if you line up thousands of them all stacked the same way, they're all the same height. They're uniform. That's one of the nice things about building with them. You know how big they are, right? They have a fixed width and a fixed height and a fixed depth. They're the same size. They're uniform. But when you look at this building, to go up around a windowsill, the mason turned the bricks on edge. And this really hit home with me too, because if you guys don't know already, I am the son of a carpenter. My dad was a foreman for a general contracting company and a carpenter, and spent 26 or 28 years of his life as the foreman for this company, really just building stuff. Now, we didn't build them out of brick. We had masons do that part. We were a construction company that built custom residential homes and additions and renovations and all that kind of stuff, barns, garages, whatever. But we had masons that did work for us. So I've always been around, the idea of building things with different materials and the practice of it. So if you look at a brick, you lay it flat one ways and you start to build a wall. You put mortar in between the joints and everybody's happy. Up and up we go. You make sure it's straight. You make sure your corners are square. And if you have a good mason, he or she can make pretty quick work of it. However, if you take a brick and turn it on edge, you all of a sudden change the shape that it has been coming up the rest of the way in the wall. And then now you can make a windowsill by standing those bricks on edge, and now it's a different shape, it's a different size, it's a different look altogether. It gives a different aesthetic. But you're using the same brick, the same material. And you can use it flat in a wall. You can use it turn on its narrow edge right for that window. You can cut it to create a perfect fit. If you're doing something like a sidewalk, or you need a little piece, you can cut a brick in half, a quarter, 3/4. And yes, it's still the same brick, but now it's become a different size. You can even stand them up. These beautiful arches, they were bricks stood up on end, and they go above all the doors and the big windows, and they make this beautiful arch all out of this same rectangular piece of masonry, building material. And it's wild to me, because that struck me deeply about something that I could relate to us as people. In my brain, I kind of wrap this in the idea of, building big things with what you already have, right? So we have lots of different things we can build in our life as a person and as people. We have goals, we have commitments, we have endeavors we undertake and things we want to achieve. And sometimes when we set out, we're not quite sure how we're going to get there. And sometimes we have to remember and realize that we as people can be really versatile, and sometimes that's exactly what it takes. Versatility is one of those tools that can do a lot of good things for us. And just like that brick, versatility is something that can carry you through a lot of different problems and help you achieve a lot of different things. So nothing changed the brick, right? So it is still a brick. Whether you stand on an edge, lay it on its side, put it flat on its flat edge, whatever the case may be, it's still the same brick. However, right, we didn't change what the brick is, but we have unlocked what the brick can do, and you as a person are no different. So each person, we are one quote-unquote brick, right? We're a single human being with a set of strengths, experiences, capacities, capabilities, but those skills can be positioned very differently depending on the task, and I think we forget this sometimes. We get so pigeonholed into thinking, oh, we're only good at this one thing, oh, we're only good at, X, Y, and Z. I couldn't do that. I can't branch out, but things like creativity and perseverance and willingness to try a new angle can make something familiar to you powerful in a surprising way, I think. So I think a lot of times we underestimate what we have already done and what we have already achieved and what we already have because we only see one quote-unquote use for it. As you go through your life every day, as you go through your house, there are things we look at every single day. The candle on the table, the candle on the top of the stove, the kitchen stove, the printer, the calendar, the toaster. All these things in our lives, we're like, yeah, we know what they're used for. They're used for one single thing, right? But I always love the joke my stepfather and I always make when we're working on something, don't use anything as a hammer except a hammer unless you don't have a hammer, and then use anything as a hammer even though it's not a hammer, right? You as a person are kind of the same, right? You are building something, period. Whether it's a life, a career, a family, a healthier mindset, a dream, a legacy, a business, all those things that we are building. People work on things every single day. And just like all those parts of us as people, all those parts of the building, the windows, the doors, the walls, the arches, they all came from the same bricks, just arranged with different intentions, and actually with intention, with very specific intention to do certain things. So here's the takeaway. You don't need more materials to start. You, yourself, the being, the awesome, wonderful, beautiful creature that you are already enough. I promise. I can't say that and stress that enough. You don't need more materials. You don't need more people. You don't need a different person. You just need some creativity, some direction, and the courage to use what you already possess, maybe just in a different way. And there's a really great thing that happens within ourselves when we start to grow and then we recognize that growth, because then we give ourselves a pat on the back like, oh, that a boy, that a girl, you're doing a fantastic job, you little beautiful human you. And as you do that, the happier you get by recognizing that growth, you will feel fueled and invigorated to do more and to keep growing. So I think a lot of times people think, oh my God, I need this complete overhaul to make a change. I'm a mess. I can't do this. This will never work. This will never be fixed. However, I want to offer you this reframing. Sometimes growth is just a matter of using an existing skill in a different orientation or a different way, right? If you have a friend who's compassionate in crisis, right? They might excel in meditation or mentoring, and that's fantastic, right? If you're a person who says, well, but I'm not like that, I don't do that well in a crisis situation, that doesn't mean you can't handle a crisis. It just means you have to approach it from a different way, maybe get a little bit creative, and realize that the skills you already have are enough. You just have to use them with intention and use them in ways that will work for what you're working on. So that reframing kind of looks like, well, it can look a little different for other people. And so you don't need that complete overhaul, right? If you are someone who is good at organizing, you can use that skill in leadership to help people from a leadership standpoint. And now all of a sudden you can say, well, I'm not the one who's good at mentoring or meditation. However, I am good at leading because I'm a very organized person. And when something happens and when there's all these moving parts and there's all these things lined up, I love organization. I'm very good at it. I can organize those people, those tasks, those things that need to get done. And all of a sudden I can provide that leadership role. And so even if you don't think of yourself as a leader, and I've had a really great conversation with a very, very fantastic, wonderful, beautiful friend of mine about this before, where they were like, I got recognized for some leadership stuff, but I've never really considered myself a leader. And I'm like, listen, in my brain, you are a tremendous leader because, the list is endless. And so sometimes I think when we look at things that way, we look at things a little differently, we can realize that even with the skills we have, we can unlock different potentials based on the way we put them into practice, right? Now, there's also some things, and I have learned this over the years, right? This was not always apparent to me. I, too, like every other person out there, faced at some point in my life like I don't know if I can do that. I'm not sure what to do, and there's an episode I did a while ago called Clutch Fan Cool, I think, about where my former employer was like, hey, listen, tear apart the motor of your dump truck, this giant $100,000 piece of equipment that you are driving for me, and fix it. And I'm like, I'm not a diesel mechanic. Like, I can get by, like, I'm mechanically inclined enough, but I can't do that. And he was like, well, you don't have a choice. So it's about reframing the skills you already have and kind of diving in. And this has been true in my life in the world of firefighting, in the world of farming, speaking, fatherhood, all those things, right? I have lots of different hats I have to wear, but I'm still the same brick, right? I'm still the same person. I don't get to change and morph and say that I become someone different based on the situation or the problem. When I show up for my kids, I'm the same guy who has to show up at the firehouse when there's an emergency or at the fire call, and I'm the same guy who has to show up and figure out how to deal with my cows or make hay or fix the equipment when something needs to be worked on. I'm the same person. But those skills that we have, I think sometimes we forget that we have them. And it's about unlocking the skills you already have by looking at them in a different way and getting a little bit creative. So I want to encourage you to maybe stop waiting for new tools and start using the ones you already have. And this takes some introspection, which sometimes can be hard, but do that for yourself. Think about all the things in your life that you have overcome, all the things that you have gone through and worked through, and you will soon realize that you are a plethora of emotional and psychological and physiological and even physical tools, and you have all that at your disposal to solve the things and to work on the things you're working on. And this is not a magic, easy button like you buy from Staples, right? Sometimes it will be super difficult, but the important thing to remember is you have so many things you have already dealt with. And we forget a lot of those, right? If you say, hey, this interview question always drove me crazy. Please, right? You sit across the table in a job interview and the people are like, okay, I don't know why they're British all of a sudden, but tell us about a time when you overcame something very difficult in your life. And you're like, oh God, I can't think of anything. Like, I don't know. And your brain starts going 3 million miles an hour because you're trying to think of something that you have overcome in your lifetime or a difficult thing you've worked through. And you're like, oh my God, I don't have anything. I can't say something foolish because then they'll think that this is a bad interview and I'm not a good candidate. And your mind races. And then you get home after the interview's over, and 3 or 4 hours later, you're like, well, could have mentioned this. Oh, definitely could have mentioned that. Oh, should have told them about the time that I did this. Or how about this catastrophe that I lived through and had to help 3 other people through? What about the time I did this? And it all stacks up and piles up, and you're like, wow, I have been through a lot. And I think people in general, no matter your age, your location, your job, your career, no matter whatever that is, no matter what it is for all these people in general, we creatures as human beings have all been through a lot, right? Give yourself a pat on the back or a round of applause or something because we as people have been through a lot. If you lived through 2020, through COVID, you've been through a lot. If you've lived through any other major life event, a death in the family, a holiday that didn't go as planned, your car breaking down, getting into a fight, breaking up, ending a relationship, divorce, your kids being mad at you, you being upset. There are countless things we could run through and rattle off as a list. But we as people, we've been through it, y'all. So I want you to remember that when you're looking at this, when you're looking at these things in front of you and all these things you want to build or the things you want to tackle, the problems you want to solve and the things you want to build and create, you have so many skills that are naturally and deeply ingrained in you. You have them to use. Sometimes they're just hiding a little bit, and you have to remind yourself that they're there. All right. And if you're having trouble thinking about Todd, how am I going to do that? I'm not good at being introspective. I'll guide you through it real quick. This will be super short, but I think it'll work, right? Think of one skill you have right now. One skill that immediately comes to mind. Just think of it. One skill. Now, I want you to imagine 3 different ways you could use that same skill in your life this week or this upcoming weekend or next week, whatever it is, okay? Do that, right? Think of one skill you have. Imagine 3 different ways you could use that same skill in your life this week. And then what would happen if you positioned that skill differently, right? Stood it up on its narrow edge, so to speak. Stood it up on end the long way, so to speak, like the bricks, right? Think about that. And I promise you can come up with some stuff. And when you start thinking that way, your brain will automatically start making connections. The snowball effect is fantastic when it comes to thinking about things and thinking about ideas. If you've never done that, as soon as you start thinking about something, your mind gets on a roll and you're like, oh man, now I'm picking up momentum. This is going to be fantastic, right? So, okay. We started out talking about bricks, and this episode isn't really about bricks. It's about you as people and about you as amazing and capable people, right? But that one brick can build a wall, a doorway, the detail of a window ledge, an archway. It can build all of those things depending on how it is set, okay? Okay. You all, you wonderful creatures, you wonderful humans, you carry more potential than you realize, and your next breakthrough can simply come from rearranging your existing strengths. We are creatures of habit. We always do things the same way, right? Because they're comfortable and they're known and they're easy, and we're like, oh, this is super simple. I like doing it this way. It's the way I've always done it. It feels normal. It feels routine. It feels familiar. Everybody's happy. But I want you to trust your ability to build something meaningful and build something different or tackle a problem you have at hand or build a job or a career or a business or an idea or a family or anything you want to build. I want you to think about building that and trust your ability to build that meaningful something, one well-placed, quote-unquote, brick at a time. You have the necessary skills. You have the abilities. You just have to get creative and think about the different ways you can use them and the different ways you can stack them up. And reframe and refocus too. Never be afraid to do that, and always give yourself some credit. I have said in lots of my episodes that we as people are our own harshest critics. We are so hard on ourselves. Oh, that dinner didn't turn out the way I wanted it. Oh, the dinner wasn't great. Oh, my hair looks terrible. I hate this photo. Oh, I'm not good at this. Oh, they're so much better than me. Oh, I'm mediocre, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. I've said that a whole lot of times too. So as you walk through these things and as you start to reframe things and look at the things going on in your life, I want you to give yourself credit and trust in your ability to do these things. You have done hard things in the past. You have overcome hard and difficult things in the past. It's not something new. It's not something foreign. So really look and lean into your ability to trust yourself and be kind to yourself and say, you know what? I am good at that. I am a good leader. Even though I've never considered myself for a leadership role, you know what? I am a good leader. The reason I'm good at leading is because I am a great organizer and I actually like talking to people. You can put those two things together and say, wow, never actually thought of it that way before. Always just thought I was an extrovert with OCD, right? And that's the kind of unkind things we do to ourselves. We categorize ourselves and box ourselves in and say, oh, you know, I'm just kind of neurotic and really like things to be super organized, you know, and I love talking to people and meeting new people. That sounds worldly and worlds different than I am an incredibly organized leader with fantastic organizational skills, right? Two completely different things. Same skill set, two completely different ways to frame it. Think about those things. How many times in our lives have we defaulted to what someone else has said about us or what we've always, quote unquote, believed about ourselves or always felt about ourselves? In reality, if you look at that same skill set, you can say, I guess I could frame that differently, and I guess I really could turn that into something else that I'm very good at that I've never considered before. And there's lots of ways you can do this. There's lots of skills you can tie together, and there's lots of ways you can achieve things with the skills you have. You just kind of have to turn that brick on edge or up, sideways and kind of look at it from a different angle to figure out what you can do differently or how you can get a little creative and use the skills you have to tackle the challenges right in front of you. And I mentioned the skills before too, about someone being good at maybe meditation or mentoring people. You might view yourself as just the person, oh, well, I'm always the quiet, like introspective one who is always the one kind of like thinking through everything and taking things slowly. Like I can't do the type 1 shoot from the hip and ask questions later. Guys, I'm not spontaneous. I'm not daring. Oh, I'm boring. And we give ourselves that boring label. And so when something comes up and you're like, hey, these people need some help with what they're going through, and a friend needs someone to talk to, you're like, oh, well, that can't be me. I'm the boring friend. But if you reframe it, you say, no, you're not the boring one. You are the quiet, introspective one who understands how to take a breath and pause and feel the moment and then work through it. You are exactly what that friend needs. You are exactly the person that person, your friend, needs to talk to, because no longer are you viewing yourself as boring. That quiet introspection can be so valuable to people who need some mentoring or who need to take a breath or take some time to meditate on. And I don't just mean meditation like, sitting and doing the traditional meditation. I mean, even like in truest form, meditating on an idea, taking the time to think through it and pausing before you just run headlong through it. And we do this so much as people. We could probably make a list like pages and pages and pages long about all the things we have categorized ourselves as, but really they're actually hidden skills. We just have to reframe them differently and give ourselves a little credit that it's a good thing and not a bad thing when it comes to those skills and those tendencies and those personality traits that we have. All right, my friends, and as we wrap up, too, I want to thank you, as always, for spending your time with me. I know our time is very valuable. Everybody has things going on, so the fact that you put me in your ears as you drive or work out or take a walk or even during your workday, whatever it happens to be, means the world to me. I do not take it for granted. I appreciate each and every single set of ears that listens to this podcast. I appreciate the feedback, the messages, the follows on social media, the support on social media. It is all wonderful. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you all so very, very much. If you think this episode could help someone, could help a friend of yours, please share it with them. Ask them to follow along and listen along on our journey as we walk through this. And before I sign out and sign off for this episode, I want to extend my thank you full circle for the entire past 51 weeks. So this is episode 51. My next episode will be episode 52. I have released an episode every single week for going on 52 weeks straight, and that boggles my mind, you guys. When I first set out to do this, some of you on social media that follow me that I know listen to this podcast encouraged me, hey, you should really start a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, I've been thinking about it. That's kind of a cool idea. And so one day I took my own advice, because I always tell people, listen, don't overthink it, just start. And I just started. I got my microphone and set it up with my laptop, and I recorded an episode of a podcast, and I took off running. And now we are almost an entire year has gone by, you guys, of weekly episodes diving into things that I hope have helped you and I hope have helped listeners and resonated with people and that have been enjoyable to listen to. And we're not gonna stop now, guys. We're gonna keep running head forward. So a giant, heartfelt holiday time thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the things you have helped me create by your feedback, and also that you have listened in and tuned in and all the comments you've shared with me. I just appreciate you being here with me so much. I hope you have the most wonderful rest of your day and have a fantastic start to your week. I know these air on Sundays at 6, so it's either Sunday evening-ish or you're about to roll into your week and start your week off, or no matter where you are in your week, even if you listen on Fridays at the end of the week. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, fantastic rest of your week, no matter how much is left of it, and I appreciate you more than I can say. Take care, be well. I hope you've loved the message. Thanks for tuning in to Todd Talk. If you've liked what you've heard, please go ahead and subscribe and follow along so you don't miss any updates or new episodes. Thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your day.